You're not my brother anymore. You're a traitor.
The notification sound from Amy's phone cut through our anniversary dinner like a blade through flesh. She grabbed it faster than I'd ever seen her move, her fingers dancing across the screen with practiced efficiency. The way she angled it away from me, the micro-expression that flickered across her face, part guilt, part excitement, told me everything I needed to know. "Work?" I asked, cutting into my steak. "Yeah," she said, not looking up. Crisis at the office. 23 years of marriage teaches you to read the signs. The way she tucked her hair behind her left ear when she lied. How her breathing changed when she was hiding something. The slight tremor in her voice when she said office, like it was a foreign word. I took another bite and watched her type. Her wedding ring caught the candlelight as her thumbs moved across the screen. Quick, urgent messages. Not the careful, professional tone she used for actual work emergencies. "Must be serious," I said. She finally looked up. "You know how it is. The Henderson account is falling apart." There was no Henderson account. I'd been handling our finances for 2 decades. I knew every client, every contract, every commission check that came through her real estate agency. "I should probably head back to the office," she continued, already standing. "Rain check on dessert?" I nodded and smiled. "Of course, honey, don't work too late." She kissed my forehead, the kind of kiss you give your grandfather, not your husband, and grabbed her purse. I watched her leave through the restaurant's front window, saw her check her phone again before she even reached her car. The waiter came by. "Everything all right, sir?" "Perfect," I said. "Could I get the check?" I drove home slowly, taking the long way through downtown. Our house sat on Maple Street, a colonial we'd bought when Amy's career took off. White picket fence, red door, the whole suburban dream. I'd spent 15 years in the Army before settling into civilian life as a logistics coordinator. Steady work, steady pay, steady life, or so I'd thought. I parked in the driveway and walked to Amy's home office. Her laptop was still open, password screen glowing. She'd left in such a hurry, she forgot to close it. I knew her password, our anniversary date. She'd never changed it. The screen unlocked to reveal a conversation that made my stomach drop. Amy: "He bought it completely. Having dinner now, but I'll leave early." Nick: "Can't wait much longer, babe. When are you telling him?" Amy: "After the divorce papers are ready. Victor says next month." Nick: "Your brother's a good lawyer." "Ethan won't know what hit him." Amy: "He's so trusting. Probably thinks I'm actually working late all those nights." Nick: "His loss. Soon you'll be free and we can start our real life." Amy: "Can't wait. This house, this life, it's suffocating me." "You're my escape." I scrolled up. Months of messages, plans, intimate details that made my hands shake. Photos I didn't want to see but couldn't stop looking at. My wife of 23 years and my younger brother, plotting my destruction like I was some obstacle to remove. The front door opened. Amy called out, "Ethan, I'm back." The crisis wasn't as bad as I thought. I closed the laptop and walked to the living room. She was already heading upstairs, phone in hand. "How'd it go?" I asked. "Fine. Just boring paperwork stuff." She paused on the third step. "I'm exhausted. Think I'll take a bath and go to bed early?" "Good idea," I said. "I've got some work to catch up on anyway." She smiled. That same smile I'd fallen in love with in college, now twisted into something unrecognizable. "You're the best, honey." I watched her disappear up the stairs, heard the bathroom door close, heard the water start running. Then I went back to her laptop and started taking screenshots. Every message, every photo, every betrayal carefully documented. My phone buzzed. A text from Nick. "Thursday night poker still on?" I stared at the message for a long time. Thursday night poker. Our monthly tradition since I'd moved back to town 5 years ago. Nick dealing cards across our kitchen table, Amy bringing us beers and sandwiches, laughing at our terrible jokes, all while they were planning to destroy everything I'd built. I typed back, "Wouldn't miss it." Then I opened my laptop and started researching Dubai job opportunities. Not because I wanted to move to Dubai, but because Amy and Nick needed to think that's what I was doing. "Dubai?" Amy's voice cracked slightly. "But I thought, your job here..." "It's a consulting position," I said, stirring my coffee. 6-month contract with Peterson Industries. The money's incredible. We were sitting at our kitchen table, the same table where Nick would deal cards in 2 days. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air. Everything looked normal, domestic, peaceful. Just a husband and wife discussing a career opportunity. "When would you leave?" she asked. "Next week if I get the position. I have the interview tomorrow." Her face went through a series of micro-expressions. Surprise, concern, then something that might have been relief before settling on what she probably thought looked like disappointment. "That's so sudden," she said. "We should discuss this more." "I already made up my mind." I reached across and took her hand. It felt cold. "This could set us up for life, Amy. After all these years of scraping by, we could finally have everything we wanted." She squeezed my hand, and for a moment I almost believed the concern in her eyes was real. "What about us?" she asked. "What about our marriage? 6 months isn't forever, and you'll be busy with work. The time will fly by." She nodded slowly. "If this is what you want." "It is." That afternoon, I drove to the airport and bought a ticket to Dubai. Not to fly there, but to leave evidence I was planning to. I used our joint credit card, made sure the purchase would show up on our statement. Then, I rented a post office box across town and started having mail forwarded there. My phone rang as I was driving home. "Victor." "Ethan, buddy, how's it going?" Victor Kane and I had served together in Middle East. While I'd gone into logistics after discharge, he'd found work in what he politely called private security. The kind of private security that didn't ask too many questions and solved problems with methods the regular world preferred not to think. "About?" "Could be better," I said. "You busy these days?" "Never too busy for an old friend. What's on your mind?" "I might need some help with a situation." "What kind of situation?" I pulled into a gas station and parked. "The kind where people need to understand they've made some poor choices." Silence on the other end. Then, "Civilian problem?" "Family problem." "Ah." Victor's voice changed, became more serious. "Those are the worst kind. You want to meet up? Talk face to face?" "Yeah, but not in town. You know Murphy's Bar out on Route 9? The one with that gravel parking lot? I'll be there in an hour." Murphy's was the kind of place where conversations happened in corners and nobody remembered faces. Victor was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth with his back to the wall. He looked the same as always, compact, alert, with eyes that missed nothing. "You look like hell," he said as I sat down. "Feel worse." I ordered a beer from the waitress, waited until she was gone. "Remember what you told me once about loyalty? That it's the only thing that matters in a firefight? And what happens when someone breaks it?" Victor studied my face. "They learn why it mattered in the first place." I told him everything. About Amy and Nick, about the messages, about their plans. Victor listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. "Your own brother," he said finally. "That's cold. 23 years of marriage, 15 years in the service. I thought loyalty meant something." "It does, to people like us." Victor leaned forward. "What do you want to do about it?" "I want them to understand what they've lost and what they threw away. I want them to feel what I'm feeling right now. And then? And then I want them to live with the consequences." Victor nodded slowly. "No permanent damage? Nothing that won't heal, nothing that can be traced back to us. Just enough to make them understand they're not as smart as they think they are." "I can work with that." He pulled out a small notebook, started writing. "Give me their routines, where they go, when they go there, what they drive." I spent the next hour laying out their lives in detail. Nick's delivery business, his usual routes, his schedule. Amy's real estate appointments, her gym routine, her favorite restaurants. Everything that made them feel safe and secure in their betrayal. "This is going to take time," Victor said when I finished. "Weeks, maybe months. You sure you want to go down this road? Once we start, there's no going back." I thought about Amy's smile as she lied to me. About Nick asking if poker was still on while planning to steal my wife. About 23 years of marriage reduced to obstacles and inconveniences in their text messages. "I'm sure." Victor closed his notebook. "Then let's teach them about loyalty." The poker game felt like attending my own funeral. Nick shuffled the cards with the same cocky grin he'd worn since high school. making jokes about work and women while Amy brought us beer and pretended to be the perfect wife. "So what's this about Dubai?" Nick asked, dealing the cards. "Amy mentioned you might be traveling." "Just a consulting job. Good money, but it means 6 months overseas." "That's rough, man. Leaving Amy all alone." He glanced toward the kitchen where she was getting more snacks. "She'll be lost without you." The casual way he said it made my jaw clench, like he was already planning what he'd do in my absence. "She's stronger than she looks," I said. "Besides, it's only temporary." "Still, if you need someone to check on her while you're gone, just say the word. Family looks out for family, right?" Family. The word tasted like poison in my mouth. "I appreciate that, Nick. Really." Amy returned with a plate of sandwiches, leaning over Nick's shoulder to set them down. Her hand brushed his arm just for a second, but I caught it. Caught the way his eyes followed her movement. "You two are so sweet looking out for me," she said, settling back into her chair. "But I'll be fine. Work keeps me plenty busy." We played for 3 hours. I lost deliberately, watched Nick pocket my money with satisfaction. Amy curled up on the couch with a magazine, occasionally commenting on our terrible jokes. The perfect picture of domestic bliss. After Nick left, Amy and I cleaned up in comfortable silence. She was humming while she washed dishes, actually humming. Like the happiest woman in the world. "He seems excited about your trip," she said. "Does he?" He kept asking questions. "When you're leaving, how long you'll be gone, whether you have an exact return date?" "Probably just making conversation." She dried her hands on a dish towel, turned to face me. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" My heart rate spiked. "Sure. Are you having second thoughts about Dubai?" I studied her face, looking for tells. Was this genuine concern or careful manipulation? "Why would you ask that? You just seem different tonight, distracted." "It's a big decision." I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. She stepped closer, put her arms around my waist. "You know I support whatever you decide, right? I just want you to be happy." I hugged her back, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. The same shampoo she'd used for 10 years. Some things never changed. "I know," I said. "I love you too." She kissed me then, soft and gentle, like the old days before everything went wrong. For a moment, I almost believed it was real. Almost. The next morning, I drove to the airport, made a show of checking in for my Dubai flight, then immediately canceled the ticket and drove to a hotel 40 miles away. I registered under a different name, paid cash, and settled in to wait. My phone rang at 2 p.m. "Amy, how was the flight?" she asked. "Long but smooth, just got to the hotel. I miss you already." "Miss you too, sweetheart. How's work?" "Busy. I might have to work late tonight." The Patterson deal is getting complicated. There was no Patterson deal. I'd already confirmed that with her agency. "Don't work too hard," I said. "I'll call you tomorrow." "I love you, Ethan." "Love you too." I hung up and immediately called Victor. "It's time," I said. That evening, Victor followed Nick's delivery truck through downtown. At a red light on 5th Street, he tapped Nick's rear bumper with his rented sedan. Not hard enough to cause damage, just enough to rattle him. Nick got out to check for dents. Victor rolled down his window. "Sorry about that, buddy. Thought you were braking harder." "No damage done," Nick said, but I could hear the nervousness in his voice when Victor called me later. "Just be more careful next time." "Absolutely. Have a good evening." Phase 1 had begun. Amy's gym trainer lost his job 3 days later. She called me in Dubai, actually called my hotel room where I was very much not in Dubai, crying about how Fitness Plus had suddenly terminated Marcus for inappropriate conduct with female clients. "It's so unfair," she sobbed into the phone. Marcus was the best trainer there, and the complaint was anonymous. They won't even tell him what he supposedly did. I made appropriate sympathetic noises while Victor texted me updates from across town. The anonymous complaint had been carefully crafted to sound plausible without being specific enough to disprove. Marcus would likely find another job, but not at Fitness Plus, and not with the reference he'd been expecting. "Maybe it's a sign you should try a different gym," I suggested. "Maybe. I just hate starting over with someone new. Change can be good sometimes." That night, Nick found a brick through his living room window. A note attached. "Stop." He called the police, filed a report, told them he had no idea who might want to threaten him or why. just some random vandalism, probably kids. But Victor was watching from across the street when the cops left. Nick triple-checked his door locks that night, drew all the curtains, kept peering through the blinds at every car that passed. The next morning, Amy's car wouldn't start. Dead battery, the mechanic said. Probably just old age. These things happen. But it meant Nick had to pick her up for their lunch date at Romano's downtown. Victor was eating at the bar when they arrived. He watched them hold hands across the table, watched Amy lean forward to whisper something that made Nick laugh. Watched them act like teenagers sneaking around behind Daddy's back. After they finished eating, Victor followed them to Nick's apartment complex. They parked in the underground garage, disappeared into the elevator. Victor noted the apartment number, the security cameras, the access points. Everything was going according to plan. I called Amy that evening. How was your day? Fine. Car trouble, but nothing serious. How's Dubai treating you? It's incredible here. The architecture, the culture. I wish you could see it. Maybe I can visit before you come home. That would be amazing. I injected enthusiasm into my voice. We could make a real vacation out of it. Silence on her end. Then, that sounds wonderful. But her voice said something else entirely. The last thing she wanted was me cutting short her freedom with Nick. I should let you go, I said. It's getting late there. Yeah, I should get some sleep. Long day tomorrow. Another lie. Her calendar was completely clear. I'd checked. After hanging up, I walked to the hotel window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my wife was probably texting my brother about their next rendezvous, planning their future while destroying mine. But they had no idea what was coming. The next afternoon, Victor broke into our house. Not to steal anything or cause damage, just to leave evidence he'd been there. Muddy boot prints by the bed Amy shared with me, the bed she'd soon be sharing with Nick. A few items moved just enough to be noticeable to someone who knew their own space. Amy called me that night, voice shaking. Someone was in the house, she said. What, are you sure? The back door was unlocked, and there are footprints upstairs. Big ones, like work boots. Did you call the police? They came and looked around. Nothing was stolen, so they think maybe I just forgot to lock the door and the prints are from the cable guy who was here last week. That makes sense. But Ethan, the prints are by our bed. Why would the cable guy go upstairs? I let silence stretch between us, let her imagination fill in the blanks. Maybe you should stay somewhere else until I get back, I suggested. Maybe I should. Perfect. Now she had an excuse to spend more time at Nick's place, and they'd both be looking over their shoulders, wondering who was watching them. The psychological pressure was building exactly as planned. Nick's delivery van caught fire in the parking lot behind Romano's restaurant. Not a big fire, just enough to destroy the interior and send a message. The fire department determined it was arson, but there were no witnesses, no security cameras, no evidence pointing to anyone specific. Nick's insurance would cover the van, but not the missed deliveries, the angry customers, the growing reputation for unreliability that would follow him around the tight-knit business community. Amy called me hysterical. They burned Nick's van, she said. Someone actually set it on fire. Jesus, is he okay? He's fine, but Ethan, this is crazy. First the brick, now this. Someone's targeting him. Does he have any idea who? He thinks it might be related to his business, maybe a competitor or a customer he had problems with, but he's scared. We're both scared. We, not he's scared. We. Maybe he should call the police again. He did. They're treating it as part of the same case as the brick incident. But they don't have any real leads. I made worried husband noises, suggested Nick should be careful, maybe vary his routine for a while. All the while, Victor was already planning the next escalation. That weekend, someone keyed "traitor" into the asphalt of Nick's apartment building parking lot, right where his burned van used to park. Deep gouges that would take the property management company weeks to repair. Nick was unraveling. Amy told me he'd started drinking more, sleeping less, jumping at shadows. He'd hired a private security company to patrol his building, which was costing him money he couldn't afford after losing the van. Maybe he should leave town for a while, I suggested during one of our nightly calls. Take a vacation until this blows over. He can't. His business is already suffering from the van situation. If he disappears now, he'll lose everything. Better than getting hurt. Yeah, her voice was small, frightened. Maybe you're right. But Nick didn't leave town. His pride wouldn't let him run, and his finances wouldn't let him stop working. Which meant he was exactly where Victor needed him to be. Phase 2 was almost complete. The next week, I rented a storage unit under a false name and began stocking it with everything I'd need for the final phases. Prepaid phones, fake identification, cash and small bills, changes of clothes. And in a locked case at the back, the documents that would seal Amy and Nick's fate. Divorce papers I'd had prepared by a lawyer in the next city. Financial records showing their affair and Amy's plans to take half of everything I'd worked for. Property transfer documents that would ensure the house stayed mine regardless of what happened in court. Everything I needed to destroy their plans and secure my future. I called Amy that night. "How are things?" I asked. "Honestly, terrible. Nick's convinced someone's hunting him. He barely leaves his apartment except for work." "Maybe that's smart. Maybe. But I'm worried about him, and I'm worried about us." "What do you mean?" Silence. Then, "Nothing. Just miss you. That's all." But I could hear it in her voice. She was having second thoughts. The stress was getting to her, making her wonder if her plan to leave me was worth all this chaos and fear. Too bad for her it was way too late for second thoughts. "I miss you too," I said. "But I'll be home soon." "When?" "Couple more weeks, then we can figure everything out." "Okay." Relief in her voice. "I love you, Ethan." "Love you too, sweetheart." After I hung up, I opened the locked case and removed the final piece of my plan. A small plastic bag containing 2 kilograms of white powder that looked exactly like cocaine but was actually baking soda mixed with crushed vitamins. It would fool a field test long enough to get Nick arrested. By the time lab results came back proving it was harmless, the damage would be done. His business ruined, his reputation destroyed, his relationship with Amy strained to the breaking point. I called Victor. "Time for phase 3, I said. The setup was beautiful in its simplicity. Victor posed as a potential customer, hired Nick to deliver a package from the storage facility to a location across town. Payment in advance, cash money, no questions asked. Just the kind of job Nick couldn't afford to refuse given his recent financial troubles. What Nick didn't know was that Victor had hidden the fake pills in a spare tire compartment before loading the package. An anonymous tip to the police ensured they'd be waiting at exactly the right intersection with a pill-sniffing dog. I watched from a rented car 3 blocks away as Nick's delivery truck got pulled over. Watched him get out, confused and cooperative. Watched his confusion turn to horror as the dog alerted on his vehicle and officers found the package. He kept shaking his head, kept saying there must be some mistake. But 2 kilograms of what looked like cocaine told a different story, and Nick had no way to prove his innocence. They cuffed him right there on Elm Street, read him his rights while a small crowd gathered to watch. By evening, it would be all over local social media. By morning, everyone in town would know that Nick Patterson had been arrested on pill charges. Amy called me sobbing. "They arrested Nick," she managed between gasps. "For pills, Ethan." "They found pills in his truck. That's impossible. Nick doesn't do pills." "I know, but they found 2 kilograms of cocaine hidden in his spare tire. He swears he doesn't know how it got there. Maybe someone planted it? That's what he says." "But who would do that? And why?" I let her cry for a while, made soothing sounds, played the supportive husband hearing terrible news about his brother. "What did his lawyer say?" I asked. "He can't afford a real lawyer. They gave him a public defender, but she's got dozens of cases. She barely has time to learn his name, let alone prove his innocence." "How much is bail?" $200,000. Even with a bondsman, we'd need $20,000 cash." There it was again. "I don't have that kind of money," I said. "Not liquid anyway." "I know. And my savings account only has about $8,000. Her savings account had exactly $7,847. I knew because I'd been monitoring our finances for weeks. "Maybe we could take out a loan against the house." "That would take weeks to process. Nick can't sit in jail that long. His business will be finished." His business was already finished. Word was spreading fast through the delivery community that Nick Patterson was unreliable at best, a pill dealer at worst. Even if the charges were eventually dropped, the damage to his reputation would be permanent. "I'm sorry, Amy. I wish I could help." "I know. It's not your fault." But her voice said something different, like maybe she was starting to wonder if this whole mess was connected to my sudden trip overseas. Like maybe the timing was too convenient to be coincidental. Smart girl. Too bad she'd figured it out too late. The next day, Amy lost her job. Not because of anything she'd done, but because Prestige Realty couldn't afford to have an agent whose family was associated with pill trafficking. Bad for the company image, the regional manager explained. Nothing personal. She called me hysterical. Ah, they fired me, she sobbed. 26 years with the company and they fired me because of Nick's arrest. That's not legal. You should fight it. With what lawyer? I can't even afford to help Nick, let alone fight my own battles. Everything was falling apart for her, exactly as planned. No job, no savings, no way to help her lover, and a husband conveniently out of the country when she needed support most. I'm coming home, I said. What? But your contract? Forget the contract. My family needs me. Relief flooded her voice. Thank you, I know you're giving up a lot. You're more important than money. The irony was delicious. She thought I was sacrificing financial opportunity to support her through this crisis. She had no idea I'd engineered the entire situation. I flew back from Dubai the next day, actually just drove home from my hotel. Amy was waiting in our driveway when I pulled up, looking haggard and desperate. She ran to me like I was her salvation. I'm so glad you're home, she said, hugging me tight. Everything's going to be okay, I assured her, stroking her hair. We'll figure this out. That evening, we visited Nick in county lockup. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing an orange jumpsuit that hung loose on his shrinking frame. Ethan, thank God you're back, he said when we sat down in the visiting room. This is insane. Someone set me up. Why would someone do that? I don't know. Maybe connected to all the other stuff that's been happening. The brick, the van fire, the maltreatment, other stuff. Amy filled me in on everything that had happened while I was away. I played the concerned brother-in-law, asking all the right questions, expressing appropriate outrage at the injustice. We'll get you out of this, I promised Nick. Whatever it takes. His eyes filled with tears. I didn't do this, man. I swear on Mom's grave, I didn't do this. I believe you, I lied. Walking back to the car, Amy was quiet. Finally, she spoke. Ethan, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think it's possible someone's targeting our whole family? First, Nick gets maltreated. Now he's framed for pill dealing. I lose my job right after you leave for Dubai. That's a pretty wild conspiracy theory. Is it? I mean, what are the odds all this happening at once is just coincidence? I stopped walking, turned to face her. What are you suggesting? I don't know. Maybe Nick was right about having enemies. Maybe whoever's after him decided to go after me too, to put more pressure on him. Close, but not quite right. That's pretty elaborate, I said. This isn't a movie, Amy. Sometimes bad things just happen all at once. She nodded, but I could see her mind working. The pieces were there if she was smart enough to put them together. Too bad for her I was 3 steps ahead. I waited 2 weeks before making my next move. Long enough for Amy to settle into the new reality of unemployment and stress, long enough for Nick's situation to feel hopeless and permanent. Then I came home early from my new local job. I'd found work with a different logistics company naturally, and discovered Amy wasn't there. Her car was gone, her purse missing from the kitchen counter where she always left it. I called her cell. It went straight to voicemail. I waited an hour, then called the police. I'd like to report my wife missing, I told the dispatcher. Officer Blake arrived 30 minutes later. I'd researched him carefully, divorced, bitter about his ex-wife's infidelity, exactly the kind of cop who would be sympathetic to my situation. When did you last see your wife? He asked, pulling out his notebook. This morning before I left for work. She was having coffee, said she might go job hunting today. Any places she might go, friends, family. Her brother's in jail awaiting trial? Most of her friends have been distant since she lost her job. Blake nodded sympathetically. It's been a rough time for your family. You could say that. Any marital problems? Arguments, disagreements. I paused, like I was considering whether to share something personal. Not problems, exactly, I said finally. But the stress has been hard on both of us. She's been different since I got back from Dubai. Different how? Secretive, defensive. Going out at odd hours, not saying where. I assumed she was embarrassed about the job situation. Has she ever stayed out all night before? Never. That's why I'm worried. Blake made notes, asked about Amy's vehicle, her recent state of mind, whether she'd seemed depressed or suicidal. I answered carefully, painting a picture of a woman under tremendous stress who might do something impulsive. After he left, I called Victor. Phase 4, I said. Amy returned home 3 hours later, keys jingling as she opened the front door. She found me sitting in the living room, hands folded in my lap. Where were you? I asked quietly. She froze. Out, looking for work. For 6 hours? I had several interviews, and then I stopped to get groceries, and I called the police. Her face went pale. What? You disappeared without a word. Your phone was turned off. I thought something had happened to you. My phone died, and I was busy, and she stopped, realizing how weak her excuses sounded. You called the police? A missing person report. Officer Blake came by, asked a lot of questions about our marriage, whether you'd been acting strange lately. Amy sank into the chair across from me. What did you tell him? The truth, that you've been different since I got back. Secretive. Going out without explanation. I'm looking for work. That's not secretive. Where did you go today, Amy? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I told you. Where? I went to see Nick. The truth, finally. For 6 hours? We talked about his case, about options, about what we're going to do. We. She caught the emphasis, heard the trap closing around her. The family, what the family is going to do. I stood up, walked to the window. Our neighbors were out working in their yards, living their normal lives, while mine imploded in carefully orchestrated stages. Amy, is there something you want to tell me? Long silence. Then, like what? Like why you're really spending so much time with Nick. Like why you turn your phone off when you're with him. Like why you lied to me about looking for work. I didn't lie. I called 3 employment agencies today. Asked if you'd been in. None of them had seen you. Her breathing changed, quick, shallow breaths like a trapped animal. Ethan, you're scaring me. I'm scaring you? I turned to face her. My wife disappears for hours, lies about where she's been, turns off her phone so I can't reach her. How do you think that makes me feel? Tears started rolling down her cheeks. I'm sorry, you're right. I should have told you where I was going. Where were you really? I was with Nick. At the jail, and then at his apartment looking through his papers, trying to find something to help his case. His apartment? He gave me his key before he was arrested. Asked me to check on things, make sure his bills were getting paid. Plausible. Almost believable. If I didn't know the truth. Amy, look at me. She raised her eyes to mine. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Anything at all? This was her chance. Her opportunity to come clean, confess everything, throw herself on my mercy and beg forgiveness. We could have worked through it. Couples survived infidelity all the time. She looked right into my eyes and said, No, there's nothing else. The last door slammed shut. Okay, I said. I believe you. But she could hear in my voice that I didn't. That night, she pretended to sleep beside me while I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Around 2 a.m., I heard her get up and go to the bathroom. Then I heard the soft sounds of her typing on her phone. Probably texting Nick, telling him about our conversation, about the police report, about the walls closing in around them. Good. Let them panic. Let them make mistakes. The end game was approaching. The next morning brought a knock at our door. Officer Blake again, this time with a female detective I didn't recognize. Mr. Patterson, I'm Detective Sarah Mills. Could we speak with you and your wife? Amy appeared behind me, still in her bathrobe. What's this about? May we come in? Blake asked. We sat in our living room, the same room where Nick had dealt poker cards just weeks ago. Detective Mills pulled out a recording device. We're following up on the missing person report from yesterday, she said, and we have some questions about your brother-in-law's case. I don't understand, Amy said. What does one have to do with the other? Mills consulted her notes. Nick Patterson has been making some interesting claims from jail. Says he believes he's being framed, that someone's been maltreating him for weeks before the pill arrest. That's what he told us too, I said. He also says his sister-in-law has been his primary support system, visiting him regularly, helping with his legal affairs, even staying at his apartment to manage his business correspondence. Amy's face flushed. I was just trying to help family. Of course. But Mr. Patterson seems to think whoever framed him might also be targeting you. He's worried about your safety. That's ridiculous, Amy said quickly. I mean, I appreciate his concern, but I can take care of myself. Blake leaned forward. Mrs. Patterson, when you filed the missing person report yesterday, you mentioned your wife had been acting differently, secretive, defensive. Could you elaborate? I glanced at Amy, saw the fear in her eyes. It's probably just stress, I said. Losing her job, worrying about Nick. We're all under a lot of pressure. Understandable. But your wife was missing for 6 hours yesterday, phone turned off, no word about where she'd gone. That seems extreme for a job search. I explained that, Amy interjected. I was helping Nick with his case. Mills made a note. At the county jail? Yes, and at his apartment afterward. The jail logs show you visited for 45 minutes. What did you do for the other 5 hours? Amy's mouth opened and closed. I was at his apartment longer than I thought. Time got away from me. Doing what, exactly? Looking through papers, bills, contracts, trying to find something that might help explain who would want to frame him? Find anything interesting? No. Nothing that made sense. Mills closed her notebook. Mr. Patterson, would you mind if we took a look around, just to get a better sense of your wife's state of mind when she disappeared yesterday? Of course, I said. Whatever helps. Amy shot me a look of pure panic, but she couldn't object without seeming suspicious. They spent 20 minutes going through our house. Nothing dramatic, just the kind of routine search that would reveal any obvious signs of marital discord or unusual behavior. In Amy's office, Mills paused at the laptop. Mind if I check her recent internet activity? Sometimes people research travel or other options when they're thinking of leaving. Go ahead, I said. Amy had deleted her browser history, but Mills was thorough. She found cached pages from a divorce attorney's website, searches for asset protection during divorce, and a particularly damning query about hiding money from spouse. Interesting reading material, Mills observed. I can explain, Amy started. No need to explain anything right now, Mills said. But Mrs. Patterson, if you're having marital problems, there are resources available, counselors, legal aid, support groups. We're not having problems, Amy insisted, but the damage was done. I could see it in Blake's eyes, in the way Mills was looking at Amy. The narrative was forming exactly as I'd planned. After they left, Amy confronted me. Why did you let them search the house? Because we have nothing to hide. Right? Of course, but what, Amy? You're acting like someone with secrets. I'm not acting like anything. I'm just stressed about Nick and worried about money and trying to figure out how to get our lives back on track. Our lives, she caught her slip. The family. Nick's life, our life, everyone's life. Is there something you want to tell me about Nick? What do you mean? The way you talk about him, the time you spend with him. The way you panic every time someone asks questions about your relationship? He's family. He's in trouble. I'm trying to help. And that's all? She looked me straight in the eye. That's all. Another lie. Another nail in her coffin. That afternoon, I called the detective from my office. Detective Mills? It's Ethan Patterson. I've been thinking about this morning, and there's something I should probably tell you. What's that, mister? Patterson? I didn't want to say anything in front of Amy, but I've been finding some things around the house. Things that don't make sense. Such as phone bills showing calls to numbers I don't recognize. Credit card charges for restaurants and hotels when she said she was working late. And yesterday, before I called you, I found something in her car. What did you find? A receipt from a motel, the Sunrise Inn on Highway 6. Dated 3 days ago. Silence on the other end. Then, Mr. Patterson? Are you suggesting your wife is having an affair? I don't know what to think, but between the secrecy, the lies about where she's been, and now this receipt, I'm starting to wonder if there's more going on than just trying to help Nick with his legal problems. Have you confronted her about this? I tried. She denies everything, says I'm being paranoid. Mr. Patterson, if your wife is having an extramarital relationship, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your brother-in-law's case. Unless the person she's involved with is Nick. Long pause. That's a serious accusation. I know. And I hope I'm wrong. But the timing of everything, the way she's been acting, the amount of time she spends helping him, I can't ignore the pattern. We'll look into it. Thank you. And, Detective, I'd appreciate if you didn't mention this conversation to Amy just yet. If I'm wrong, I don't want to damage our marriage over suspicion. Understood. I hung up feeling satisfied. The seeds were planted. Now I just had to wait for them to grow. Amy's world continued to collapse in carefully measured increments. Her unemployment benefits were denied due to a paperwork error that would take weeks to resolve. Her car developed mysterious mechanical problems that cost more to fix than the vehicle was worth. Her credit card applications were rejected for reasons the banks couldn't adequately explain. Meanwhile, I played the supportive husband perfectly, comforting her when she cried, encouraging her when she despaired, offering to help in ways that subtly highlighted how dependent she'd become on me. Maybe you should call your sister in Phoenix, I suggested one evening as she stared at another rejection letter. Might be good to get away for a while, clear your head. I can't leave now, not with Nick's trial coming up. Amy, you've done everything you can for him. His lawyer has the case now. His public defender barely knows his name. He needs family support. He needs a better attorney. Family support won't get him acquitted. She threw the letter down in frustration. So what are you saying? That I should just abandon him? I'm saying you're destroying yourself trying to save someone who might not be savable. He's innocent. Maybe. But the evidence says otherwise. You don't believe him? I paused, as if considering my words carefully. I want to believe him. But Amy, 2 kilograms of cocaine don't just appear in someone's truck. Either he's lying about his involvement, or someone with serious resources and connections set him up. Someone did set him up. Who? And why? Nick's a small-time delivery driver. Who would go to that much trouble to destroy him? She didn't answer, but I could see the wheels turning. The same question had been eating at her for weeks. Unless, I continued, it's connected to something else. Something bigger than just Nick's business? Like what? I don't know. Maybe he got involved with the wrong people. Maybe he saw something he shouldn't have. Maybe he made promises he couldn't keep. I was giving her an out, a way to rationalize Nick's situation that didn't implicate her directly. If she was smart, she'd take it. He would have told me if he was in that kind of trouble. Would he? If it was dangerous, if it could put you at risk too? She considered this. Maybe. Amy, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Her body tensed. Okay. Is there any chance Nick was actually involved in pill dealing? Even minor stuff, even just as a favor for someone else? No, absolutely not. How can you be so sure? Because I know him, because we... She stopped herself. Because what? Because we've talked about it, extensively. He's as confused as anyone about how those pills got in his truck. When did you talk about it extensively? During my visits. And when I've been helping with his case. Amy, how much time are you really spending on Nick's case? What do you mean? I mean, you're at the jail 3 times a week. You're at his apartment every other day. You're spending more time on his problems than on finding a new job. His problems are urgent. Jobs can wait. Can they? We're burning through our savings. The mortgage payment is due next week, and we don't have enough in checking to cover it. Her face went pale. She'd been so focused on Nick's crisis that she'd lost track of our own financial situation. How bad is it? She asked. Bad? If you don't find work soon, we'll have to make some hard choices. Like what? Like selling the house. No. The word came out as a whisper. We can't sell the house. Amy, we can't keep hemorrhaging money. And if you're going to spend all your time playing attorney for Nick instead of looking for work, I'll find a job, I promise. When? You've been looking for 3 weeks and haven't had a single interview. The market is tough right now. The market is tough for people who don't try. But you've been too busy with Nick to actually look. She started crying then, the same hopeless sobs I'd been hearing for weeks. But this time, there was something different in her tears. Guilt, maybe. Or recognition that her choices had consequences she hadn't considered. I don't know what to do, she said. You could start by being honest with me? She looked up, mascara running down her cheeks. What do you mean? I mean, if there's something going on between you and Nick, you need to tell me now, before this gets any worse. There's nothing going on. Amy, I found a receipt in your car from the Sunrise Inn. Her face went white. I can explain. I'm sure you can, but the question is whether your explanation will be the truth. She sat there for a long moment, weighing her options. Tell the truth and face the consequences, or double down on the lies and hope I couldn't prove anything. She chose badly. I was meeting a potential employer there. He wanted to discuss a position in private. What employer? Robert Morrison. He runs a consulting firm. I'll call him tomorrow and thank him for considering you. Panic flashed across her face. He's traveling, won't be back for weeks. Then I'll wait. She realized she was trapped. The lie was too specific, too easy to disprove. Ethan, She started, then stopped. What, Amy? Nothing. You're right to be suspicious. I haven't been handling things well. Close, but not close enough. Get your act together, I said, standing up. Find a job, stop obsessing over Nick's case, and start acting like a wife instead of whatever you've been acting like. I left her sitting there, crying into her hands. Phase 4 was nearly complete. The final pieces fell into place with brutal efficiency. Detective Mills called the next morning with news that Nick's case had taken an interesting turn. Mr. Patterson? We've been looking into your brother-in-law's claims about being framed, and we found some irregularities. What kind of irregularities? The anonymous tip that led to his arrest came from a burner phone purchased with cash. No way to trace it back to the caller. That's suspicious. Very. And the pills found in his truck test as high-grade cocaine, but Nick's financial records show no unusual income, no lifestyle changes, no signs he was involved in distribution. So, you think he really was framed? It's possible. But here's where it gets interesting. We pulled security footage from the area where he picked up the package, and we can see someone tampering with his truck while he was inside the building. My heart rate spiked. Did you get a clear image of the person? Not clear enough for identification, but it was definitely deliberate sabotage. Have you told Nick? Not yet. We're still investigating, but Mr. Patterson, I have to ask, has your wife mentioned anything about enemies Nick might have? Anyone who'd want to see him destroyed? No, nothing like that. Amy's convinced he's innocent. Speaking of your wife, we'd like to talk to her again. Some inconsistencies in her previous statements. What kind of inconsistencies? I'd rather discuss that in person. Is she available this afternoon? I'll ask her. Amy was in the kitchen when I hung up, pretending to read the newspaper but obviously listening to my conversation. The police want to talk to you again, I said. About what? They're finding evidence that Nick really was framed, but they have questions about your statements. Relief and terror warred across her face. Relief that Nick might be exonerated. Terror that her lies were catching up with her. What questions? They didn't say. But Amy, if you haven't been completely truthful with them, now's the time to come clean. If they find out you've been lying, I haven't lied about anything important. What if you lied about that's not important? Silence. Amy, I may have simplified some things about my relationship with Nick. Here it comes. Oh, what kind of relationship? We're close. Closer than I probably made it sound. How close? He's been more than just a brother-in-law to me. Meaning, what exactly? She started crying again. Meaning I've been having an affair with him for the past 8 months. There it was. The confession I'd been waiting for. An affair. Yes, my brother and my wife have been having an affair. Yes. I sat down heavily like the news was a physical blow. How long? I told you. 8 months. How did it start? Does it matter? It matters to me. She wiped her eyes with a dish towel. It started gradually. He was having problems with his business. Needed someone to talk to. I was having problems with us. Our marriage. We started talking, spending time together. One thing led to another. Problems with our marriage? What problems? You know what problems? No, I don't. Enlighten me. You're never here. When you are here, you're distant. We haven't had a real conversation in years. We don't do anything together. Don't share anything meaningful. I felt like I was married to a stranger. So you decided to sleep with my brother. It wasn't planned. It just happened. For 8 months, it just happened? I know how it sounds. It sounds like you've been lying to me for 8 months while sleeping with my brother behind my back. Yes. And the Dubai trip? You were planning to leave me while I was gone? She nodded miserably. Were you going to tell me or just disappear? We were going to wait until after you got back, file for divorce, split everything fairly. Fairly? I almost laughed. You think destroying our marriage is fair? I think 23 years is long enough to stay in a relationship that isn't working. For who? It was working fine for me. Because you never paid attention. You had no idea how miserable I was. I had no idea you were a cheating liar. She flinched like I'd slapped her. When the police ask you about your relationship with Nick, I said, you'd better tell them the truth. All of it. Because if they find out you've been lying, they'll assume you were involved in framing him too. I wasn't involved in anything. Then you'd better hope they believe you. I left her in the kitchen and went to my office to call Victor. It's time for the final phase, I said. You sure? Once we do this, there's no taking it back. I'm sure. She just confessed everything. Now I want them both to face the consequences. Your call. I'll make the arrangements. That evening, I had dinner with my cheating wife one last time. We ate in silence, both of us knowing our marriage was over, both of us knowing the worst was yet to come. After dinner, I went to the storage unit and retrieved the locked case. Inside, along with the fake divorce papers and property transfers, was the real prize, a recording device I'd been carrying for weeks, capturing every conversation, every lie, every admission of guilt, including Amy's confession that afternoon. The police would find it very interesting. The next morning brought Detective Mills and Officer Blake to our door again, this time with a warrant. We're here to search the premises in connection with the Nicholas Patterson case, Mills announced, handing me the paperwork. Amy appeared beside me, still in her robe. I don't understand. What are you looking for? Evidence of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and perjury, Blake said. Step aside, please. They swept through our house like a hurricane, turning over drawers, checking computers, photographing documents. In Amy's office, they seized her laptop and phone. In our bedroom, they bagged several items of clothing. What's this about? Amy kept asking. I thought you were investigating who framed Nick. We are, Mills said. And that investigation has revealed some interesting connections. They found the recording device exactly where I'd hidden it, in a jewelry box in our bedroom. Mills held it up like a trophy. Whose is this? Amy stared at it in confusion. I've never seen it before. It was hidden in your jewelry box. That's impossible. I would have noticed. Mills turned it on. My voice filled the room, crystal clear. Amy, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Then Amy's voice. I've been having an affair with him for the past 8 months. Amy's face went white. How is that possible? Good question, Mills said. Mr. Patterson, did you place this device in your wife's jewelry box? I've never seen it before either. Someone's been recording your private conversations. That's illegal, Amy said. You can't use that in court. Actually, we can. Maryland is a one-party consent state. If one person in the conversation knows it's being recorded, it's admissible. But neither of us knew. Are you sure about that? Amy looked at me with dawning horror. Ethan? Why would I record my own wife confessing to infidelity? I don't know, but someone did. Mills bagged the device. We'll be analyzing this for fingerprints and DNA. If either of you placed it there, we'll know. After they left, Amy confronted me. This is insane. Someone's been listening to our conversations, recording our most private moments, apparently. Aren't you upset about this? Someone invaded our home, our privacy. I'm more upset about the infidelity. Ethan, focus. Someone has been watching us, recording us, manipulating us. Don't you see what's happening? What's happening is that my wife has been cheating on me with my brother, and now the police have evidence of it. That's not what I mean. Think about the timing. You leave for Dubai, Nick gets maltreated, then framed, I lose my job, our finances fall apart, and now we find out we've been under surveillance. Someone orchestrated all of this. She was finally putting it together. Too late, but she was getting there. Who would do that? I don't know, but someone with resources, connections, and a serious grudge against our family. Amy, you're starting to sound paranoid. Am I? Or am I the only one seeing the big picture? She paced around the living room, working through the logic. The maltreatment campaign against Nick, the planted pills, the anonymous tips to police, the recording device, even your job offer in Dubai. What if that wasn't real either? My blood ran cold. She was getting too close to the truth. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we've been played. All of us. You, me, Nick, we're all sufferers of some elaborate revenge scheme. Revenge for what? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. That afternoon, she called the hotel in Dubai where I'd supposedly stayed. I listened from the next room as she spoke to the desk clerk. I'm trying to verify that my husband stayed there last month. Ethan Patterson? Pause. Are you sure? Can you check again? Longer pause. I see. Thank you. She hung up and came to find me. They have no record of you ever staying there. That's impossible. I have receipts. Show me. I pretended to look through my papers. I must have left them at the office. Ethan, the hotel clerk said they've never had a guest by your name. Not last month, not ever. Maybe I stayed somewhere else and mixed up the names. Where did you stay? I don't remember exactly. It was just a business hotel. You don't remember where you lived for 6 weeks? Amy, I was working 18-hour days. The hotels all blur together. She stared at me for a long moment. You never went to Dubai. That's ridiculous. Prove it. Show me your passport stamps. Show me your airline boarding passes. Show me anything that proves you left the country. I could have shown her fake documents. I had them prepared. But something in her eyes told me the game had changed. She wasn't just suspicious anymore. She was certain. Where were you really? She asked. I was in Dubai. Liar. Amy, you've been here the whole time, watching us, recording us, orchestrating everything that's happened. You're being paranoid. Am I? Let's see. You conveniently leave town just as Nick starts getting maltreated. I lose my job right after you're gone. Our finances mysteriously fall apart. Nick gets framed on pill charges, and now we find out someone's been recording our private conversations. Correlation isn't causation. And you keep deflecting instead of answering direct questions. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. To tell them what? That I think my husband framed my brother-in-law and has been stalking his own family. They'll think you're crazy. Will they? Or will they start investigating you instead of just Nick? I grabbed her wrist before she could dial. Amy, you need to think about what you're doing. Let go of me. If you make that call, you'll destroy both our lives. You already destroyed our lives. I'm trying to save what's left of them. She jerked her hand free. By framing Nick? By recording our conversations? By lying to me for months? By showing you the consequences of betrayal? The words hung in the air between us like a confession. So you admit it. I admit that actions have consequences. You and Nick made choices. Now you're living with the results. You did this. All of it. You did this. When you decided to sleep with my brother. So you destroyed his life to punish me? I destroyed his life because he destroyed mine. She backed away from me, phone still in her hand. You're insane. I'm methodical. You framed an innocent man. I framed a man who was sleeping with my wife. That's not illegal. No, but pill possession is... She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Who are you? I'm the man you married. I'm the man you betrayed. I'm the man who spent 15 years in the army learning how to plan operations and eliminate threats. I'm not a threat. Nick's not a threat. You threatened everything I built. My marriage, my family, my future. I simply eliminated the threat. She started backing toward the door. Amy, where are you going? Away from you. To do what? Call the police? Tell them your husband discovered your affair and decided to get revenge? They'll want evidence. Proof. Documentation. I'll find it. No, you won't, because I'm very good at what I do. She reached the front door, fumbled with the lock. The house is in my name, I said calmly. Has been for 6 months. You signed the papers thinking they were insurance documents. Her hand froze on the doorknob. The bank accounts are in my name. The car titles. Everything you think is yours isn't yours anymore. That's impossible. Check the courthouse records. Check the DMV. Check anywhere you want. She turned to face me, tears streaming down her cheeks. How long have you been planning this? Since the day I found out about you and Nick. 8 months? Every detail, every contingency. every possible outcome. You're a monster. I'm a man who loved his wife and trusted his brother. You made me into something else. She opened the door and ran. I let her go. She had nowhere to run to anyway. The final confrontation came 3 days later in the courthouse waiting area. Amy sat in handcuffs, having been arrested for conspiracy and perjury. Nick sat beside her in his orange jumpsuit. Bail revoked after the recording surfaced, proving he and Amy had been planning their affair while he was supposedly innocent of all wrongdoing. They both looked broken, exhausted, defeated. I sat across from them, wearing my best suit, holding the property transfer documents that made me sole owner of everything we'd built together. Hello, Amy. Nick. Amy wouldn't look at me, but Nick's eyes burned with hatred. You son of a witch, he said. You destroyed everything. No, you destroyed everything. I just made sure there were consequences. We never hurt anyone. You hurt me. So you decided to ruin our lives? I decided to teach you about loyalty. Amy finally looked up. Was any of it real? Our marriage, your love, anything? All of it was real, until you made it not real. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. Some mistakes have bigger consequences than others. You could have divorced me. You could have cut Nick out of your life. You didn't have to destroy us. Simple divorce wasn't enough. You needed to understand what you threw away. Nick leaned forward. And what did we throw away, Ethan? A boring marriage to a controlling psychopath? You threw away loyalty, family, trust, everything that actually matters. What matters is love. What matters is happiness. What matters is being with someone who makes you feel alive. And how alive do you feel now? His jaw clenched, but he didn't answer. A bailiff called Amy's name. Her case was next. This isn't over, she said as they led her away. Yes, it is. Nick's case was called an hour later. The recording had destroyed any sympathy the jury might have had for him. A man who would betray his own brother's marriage wasn't someone they were inclined to believe about anything else. The planted pills, the fake evidence, the elaborate frame job, none of it mattered anymore. The jury saw a liar and a homewrecker who got what he deserved. Nick got 8 years. Amy got 3 years suspended sentence and 5 years probation for conspiracy and perjury. But her real punishment was losing everything: the house, the savings, the life she'd taken for granted. I walked out of the courthouse into the afternoon sunlight. The parking lot stretched out before me, half empty, quiet, except for the sound of traffic on the street. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Justice served. V. I deleted the message and got in my car. Victor would disappear back into whatever shadows he'd emerged from. His part in this finished. The recording device would never be traced back to either of us. The planted pills had already been destroyed, replaced with harmless baking soda that would confuse any future investigation. There were no loose ends, no evidence, no trail leading back to me. Just consequences, finally delivered to people who thought they were smart enough to avoid them. I drove home, to my house, and poured myself a drink. Outside, the neighborhood was settling into evening routines. Families having dinner, kids playing in yards, normal people living normal lives. The kind of life I'd had before Amy decided it wasn't enough for her. The kind of life she'd never have again. I raised my glass in a toast to the empty room. She wanted freedom, I said aloud. I gave her a cage made of her own lies.